So what we really provide is a scalable platform on which you can accelerate the growth of your business. We provide the framework and the capability for you to excite your customers and to meet their expectations. We provide the capability to meet the expectations that your regulators have on you in terms of being able to demonstrate robust regulatory compliance. And finally, our promise to you is that we will keep our promises and allow you to keep the promises that you've made to your internal stakeholders. We think about onboarding as having three key components in order to deliver a successful program. And those three are standardization, and by that I mean all of the elements of ensuring that you've got a robust compliance framework in place. I think about it in terms of delivering a standardization that crosses business units and silos. And I also think of it in terms of automation. So really by that I mean making sure that your staff are focused on managing risks to your business and not managing keystrokes. Okay, so that's pillar one. Pillar two is about client experience, and by that really I talk about not about a nice shiny form to fill in, but what I'm thinking about is that the client actually has a real-time experience or near real-time experience as they experience transacting with you, and that also they are not bothered by repetitive and annoying data requests and bits of information that they think you should already have because you have a relationship with them. And then the final element, and this is the piece that we think that most onboarding initiatives are completely failing in at the moment, is the ability to actually empower your front office. Front office empowerment is all about giving the business the capability to grow and the capability to meet their customer demands. And we think about that in terms of how do we change the status quo today from the industry, an industry situation where front office is quite limited very often by the process of onboarding. And by that I mean we very much see a couple of quite significant problems in the industry. So the first of which is purely the time that it takes to get a new customer onboarded to the point that they're able to start booking revenue, and that is, you know, a significant problem. So across the industry we see anything from weeks to months as being the standard, and even best in class according to, say, McKinsey, would be 6 or 7 days, whereas the more common experience is often in months. So we think that's a significant issue. The other thing that then forces the business to do is to be having this constant dialogue with operations as to which customer gets prioritized. So if you think about that in the context of the rest of the business, you can't imagine a situation where front office has to engage with operations to determine which trade they've done gets settled. So that sort of situation in our mind is not a great one. So what we want to do is actually deliver automation such that you can deliver a fully expanded pipeline that enables those problems to go away. So one, to be able to deliver the accelerated onboarding journey to cut the time down massively. And we have situations where we've got customers that have been able to deliver in certain segments virtually instantaneous onboarding to even CIB onboarding, where say standard due diligence is able to be completed in an hour, even though maybe each case might take, the average case might be a day, but that's a massive step change relative to what most people in the industry are able to accomplish. And equally, if you're able to do that, then there's definitely no need to have a meeting every day to prioritise which in the pipeline's going to get the sort of white glove treatment and who's going to be forgotten. So we want to make that kind of a thing of the past. So for me, client experience is about the ability to deliver two things. One is a kind of a near real-time or near real-time experience. So when customers actually want service, they want it now. And if you think about that from a pure consumer perspective, we have got completely used to, in a digital and connected world, being able to order stuff online, get our pizza or whatever on Deliveroo, and it's there within half an hour, and we want to download songs, we want to download a movie. There's no need to wait for all of these things. And I think that people don't understand when they go and deal with, say, a financial institution, and whether it's in a personal capacity or a business capacity, why a transaction needs to take a long time. The other thing that gets people really rankled, and it certainly does for me as both a business owner and a personal consumer, is when the organisations that I deal with are asking me for things that they already should know about me. So what we also want to think about is lack of repetitive data requests. So those are the kind of two things to me that are fundamental in customer experience. Lots of people think about it and think, oh, it's a nice website or a form that somebody can use. But for me, it's about actually the engagement with your service provider and your experience in terms of how quickly you get serviced and how well you get serviced. So standardisation really is about having a robust control framework in place that means that you as an organisation can sleep at night, essentially knowing that all of the risks that you might be under as a business when dealing with a customer are taken care of. And that is done in a completely uniform way across your organisation. So there are no kind of gaps in that. So that's one thing. So it's being able to auditally prove robust regulatory compliance. But I think there are also some other elements to standards, and those are really thinking about how that sits across your business in a holistic sense. So I think one of the things that we're very used to when dealing with particularly financial institutions, and particularly when we go cross-border or cross-market, is that things happen in silos. So if I think about the other pillar of standardisation, it's really about ensuring that framework that you've got for compliance or business actually sits in a holistic way across the whole business. So the experience that you get as a stakeholder in engaging with that process is uniform. And that also has a great benefit from a risk management point of view, because it means that you clearly have that common framework and that common way of enforcing your compliance regime. And then finally, the thing that I think about when I think about standards is automation. Because really what you want to be able to do is to deliver automation such that all of the people and the operations teams that you've got involved in that process are leveraged to manage risk in your business. And what they're not doing is low value work, which is punching keys. If I think about the way that the industry in general has looked at the onboarding conundrum, that what I see really is that the approach has been very much to try and look at standardisation as being the primary factor that people look at. And what they've really tried to do, they've imagined in their mind a kind of a paper-based process that existed with filling forms in and passing those from one group of people to another in terms of all of the stakeholders that need to participate in that process. And what that's really done is it's helped put the guide rail round regulatory compliance. But what it's really not done is thought from the bottom up about how we actually going to automate that. And I think about the automation, as we've discussed earlier, is really doing two things. It's adding capacity to the business, and it's actually ensuring an enriched experience for operators, operational staff, both internal and external. And that to me is the bit that's missing. So what we have done as a business is that we've got effectively a laser-like focus thinking about the elements of that process and what can we do to automate it to both deliver that capacity and that client and operations experience. And really the key to that and doing it successfully is very unsexy, and it's just a focus on data, because you can do two things. You can make sure that you've got access to all the data that you already know about the entities that are involved in the transaction that you're taking about. So if you bring those in and you combine the data that you already have as an organization with what you're able to source from the external ecosystem nowadays, so be that, company data from registries, be it scanning in ID verification, be it use of automated ID verification, is it PEPs, sanctions, negative and adverse media things, all of these elements that you need for that journey can be brought in a holistic way. And if you think about it with the pure focus of what can I do to actually make sure that this journey is as automated as possible, as near real-time as possible, that is how we then deliver the business outcomes that we're trying to achieve from it. But one of our customers who already had a pretty good CIB onboarding process, in that the process that they had was already what would be considered market leading, in the sense that they were able to deliver an onboarding journey in around a week. We've been able to take that from 1 week down to kind of 1 hour in the best case, but generally 1 day. So that's a really significant uptick. We have another customer whereby by implementing our system, they were able to effectively get 20 times the throughput of onboarding cases, which enabled them to set completely new sales targets as a business and go out and go for much more revenue. So that's really empowering the business to grow. And finally, in another customer example, we were able to help them support a completely new business line with no increase in the operation staff whatsoever, and actually give them an uptick in terms of thousands of cases, the vast majority of which, over 75% in fact, are actually going through without a human being have to touch them at all.